Today we will discuss the infographic titled The Strongest Industries in Asia, published by Visual Capitalist based on McKinsey data from September 2023. The infographic presents 8 industries. Starting from the top, the industries are consumer electronics, industrial electronics, electric vehicles, semiconductors, consumer internet, pharmaceuticals, e-commerce, online payments. Each of these industries was assessed on 3 factors. Global share in a group of 3,000 most important companies in a given industry. This data is presented in the first column from the left. The second column from the left shows the share of Asian companies in the industry's global profits. And the third column shows the share in the number of patents in a given industry. At the bottom of the infographic there is a note that the group of 3,000 most important companies in a given industry includes entities that achieved a market capitalization of over $5 billion in the year 2020. In the consumer electronics category, i.e. the production of electronic equipment such as phones, computers, audio equipment, photographic equipment, and televisions, Asian companies dominated the group of the world's largest companies with a share of 69%. Total revenue had a similar result, 64%. In terms of patents, 77% are owned by Asian manufacturers. Almost 4 out of 5 patents in this industry. Industrial electronics, i.e. robots, production line components, control systems, power supply components and so on, Asian companies account for 62% of the world's largest companies and control over 2/3 of revenues. 68%. Please note that 9 out of 10 patents in this field are held by Asians. Asian companies have achieved even greater intellectual property dominance in the electric vehicle industry. Here, 96% of the solutions are in Asian hands and 4% outside Asia. As in previous industries, about 2/3 of the largest companies come from Asia. At the same time, please note that despite the advantages mentioned, the share in profits is 45%. This proves the strong position of non-Asian companies in the electric car market, which, despite having only 4% of the patents and 1/3 of the companies, generate the highest revenues and drink the cream. This is probably about the American Tesla, but also other brands, such as Ford, GM and others, which are heavily involved in electromobility, as well as the European automotive industry, led by Germany and the strong France, whose brands I don't have to mention to you because you see them every day on their streets. The 3 industries just mentioned are dominated by Asian entities. Next, I will list industries dominated by non-Asian companies. The share of Asian companies among the largest players in the semiconductor industry is 57%. The share of patents is similar, 54%. Revenue share 45%. And here's a note. The semiconductor industry is divided into many categories, from design, through programming, manufacturing semiconductor machines, and semiconductor manufacturing itself. And the latter is especially visible in Taiwan, where Taiwan Semiconductor has its largest plants. But Taiwan Semiconductor is a global company and its shareholding is dominated by American investors. Here's an interesting fact: the 2 largest American semiconductor companies, NVIDIA and AMD, are run by leaders of Chinese origin. After Taiwan, Korean Samsung is important, and there are also Japanese companies. However, companies from the Chinese mainland have been cut off from the latest semiconductor technologies for several years, which have been subject to export restrictions by the American administration. When it comes to innovations and production control, the world center of the semiconductor industry is in the United States. NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, Broadcom, Qualcomm, Texas Instruments, Advanced Materials and a number of other important players are already mentioned there. Plus several important companies in Europe, such as the Dutch ASML, once spun off from Philips, which produces production lines for the production of semiconductors and which, in agreement with the United States, stopped exporting the latest technologies to China in 2023. As a result of the ongoing trade war in this industry, Taiwan's TSMC is also moving part of its production to the USA and Europe. In the field of Internet solutions, Asian companies constitute almost 40% of the world's largest companies, generate 32% of revenues and hold 12% of patents. These are quite poor results compared to the rest of the world, where American companies such as Google and Meta dominate this category. Please note that this branch of industry experienced a revolution 20 years ago, and today the semiconductor and artificial intelligence industries are experiencing a similar revolution. Both are of strategic importance, among other things, because they are related to the control and processing of information. The 21st century is the age of information. The potential of knowledge about consumer choices, individual people and entire societies generated by possessing and analyzing information from platforms such as the Google search engine, YouTube, instant messaging, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok and other social networking sites is incomparable to anything in history. And I don't mean only the aspect of commercialization of this knowledge in the field of advertising, but also in the field of people management, governing countries, and behavioral knowledge. This is a fascinating and unprecedented achievement for this new industry. The biotechnology and pharmaceutical industry is related not only to the production of medicines but also food additives for humans and veterinary medicine. And now an important note, please think about what I'm about to say. Asia's population is almost 5 billion people, that is, 60% of the global population. In the case of the biopharma industry, we can safely equate the entire population with the volume of consumers. And despite such a market, only every fourth largest company in the world is from Asia. The revenue share is even worse, 9%, and the patent share is 3%. That is, 97% of medicines and other industry solutions come from outside Asia. Please remember that patents are the main driving force of the pharmaceutical industry. Generic drugs, i.e. drugs manufactured on the basis of expired patents, are an important market segment, but among the largest companies, the main advantages lie in new discoveries. Patented substances have the highest margins. Now an interesting fact that is difficult to even guess from today's infographic. The largest production volume of drug components in the world comes from India, an Asian country. Today this is about half of world production. If Indian factories did not deliver components on time, drug production around the world would be paralyzed. But this is done on behalf of American and European companies. Many Indians choose a career path in biotechnology, chemistry and pharmacy, seeing the possibility of good work in Western corporations in India. A large group of Indian citizens also study these fields at universities in your country. Such a curiosity. Do you have any thoughts on why this industry in Asia looks weak compared to others? The answer is not simple and is multi-threaded. One of the elements in East Asia will certainly be the tradition of natural medicine, as well as culinary culture, which includes elements of food treatment. In the e-commerce industry, every fifth largest company in the world comes from Asia, and 30% of revenues are generated here. Half of the patents relating to e-commerce solutions indicate the industry's great potential in the future. The similar electronic payments industry also has considerable development potential in Asia, because today every fifth largest enterprise and almost every fifth earned dollar comes from the Asian market. The share of patents is very modest, below 1%. But you have to be careful here. There is an application in China called WeChat, which, in addition to the messenger and many other functions, also has a payment module and is used by almost all Chinese on a daily basis. So we can imagine a situation where the market domination by one solution on a scale unattainable on other continents may not be reflected in today's infographic. American companies such as Visa, American Express, Western Union, and PayPal are global giants in online payments. But the everyday banking of many Americans still has such archaic elements as check payments. In terms of the absorption of technological innovations in the field of online banking, regions of the world where classical financial institutions were poorly developed and consumers began to use payment systems with the introduction of smartphones are doing better. This is a technology premium phenomenon. Finally, a technical note. The infographic presents 8 industries selected from many. Therefore, this is not the complete picture. However, we can draw some conclusions, which I encourage you to do, and I hope that I have inspired you, at least to a small extent. I invite you to comment on this material.